Hello everyone, today is day 22 of the Doodle School Free Motion Doodle Challenge, and today's prompt is repeat. So I've got in front of me the repeat designs that I'm going to show you today. Clamshells are a really great way to create a repeat pattern. I'm also going to show you a variation of a design that I have in the Doodle School book. So in Doodle School, I have a border design called, I believe it was swirl flowers or swirl flower border. So I've created some more flowers just by using repeats around a circle. So you get the repeat both in the flower repeating over and over, and then also the circle having these echoes that repeat back and forth. Okay, so let's get going. So I printed out a grid and I lowered the opacity so that you can just barely see it, but it's really helpful to have this to guide you when you're creating certain repeat patterns. So the first one I'm going to show you is this one. To me, it's basically a clamshell. You can see that clamshell pattern in it, although it's a little bit disguised. But to me, this looks like a forest of little tiny trees, or maybe a bunch of leaves all lined up. So let's go ahead and do that one. Start by doing clamshells across your bottom row. Then you are going to echo those clamshells from right to left. Just echo the tops of them. Okay, once you've done that, travel up 2 squares, and this first clamshell that you do is just going to be a half clamshell so that it meets up with the middle of the top of that echo right there. And then I'm going to fill in the rest of this row with clamshells traveling from left to right. Then I'll go up just a bit and echo this row. And I'm going to do 4 rows of these clamshells before I add in the little mini trees or the leaves. Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and work my way down, filling in the trees. So every tree starts at the base of one of these points right here where these 2 clamshells meet together. So I'm going to travel down to there, and I'm just going to make a teardrop shape that is about that size. So you're going to leave a little bit of space over here and a little space over there, because when you come down here you need room for another tree right there. So once you've done this, you can travel along that clamshell and just fill in the whole row with your tiny trees. And right there you can put a half one if you want. Okay, then I'm going to travel down to here, actually to where the top of this clamshell right here, and then I'll use that to travel down here and start a new row of these cute little trees. Okay, so that's my little forest of tiny trees. Let's go ahead and do this other clamshell design first. Now for this one, you don't necessarily need to mark out your clamshells before you begin. So I'm going to create my clamshell shape as I go along. So what I'm going to do is I will do the left side of my first clamshell, curving up and over, and then I'm going to kind of turn that into kind of looks like the top of a heart, or I see these as being like kind of like the birds that you used to draw in your pictures in the sky when you were little, and maybe you still do because they still look good. So just draw a little bird up here and then echo and just keep echoing down, and as you go down you're going to spread it out so that it kind of creates that rounded clamshell shape. And then you're going to end up right here, travel up again, and then do this little bird echo that goes back and forth and fills up that clamshell area. Okay. You make sure you end up over here on the right side of the clamshell so that then you can just travel right back up again and start your next one. So you do end up creating a kind of a line for a clamshell on that left side for this whole row. Now I'm going to travel up and start the next row. So for this one you're only going to have half of a clamshell on this side. So what you could do is just kind of do something like that. I did go up slightly too high there. Okay, so now you're going to do this curve that kind of ends in a little bird in the sky. And just continue doing that across. And they gradually get bigger as they come down. So you start with the small one at the top, and then they increase in size. So you can see as I'm coming across on this second row, I'm bringing these little bird shapes down into the spaces between my clamshells in the first row. So this is a nice one because it really fills up the space quite well. Whoops. That's a little tricky. Okay, got that filled in. So then I would travel up to my next row and go back to working from left to right like I did in my first row. Okay, so there's my second design. I don't really have a name for it. To me it kind of looks like a field of wheat or corn maybe. So I'll think of a name. Maybe if you have some suggestions you could let me know. You can see my doodles where I did it before earlier today are much neater. This is more like what I'd like it to look like. Let's do this border design. I also haven't really thought of a name for that one, so I'm open to suggestions. Okay, so for this one, you do it in more than one pass. So I am going to start over here on my left with a curvy line that reaches from this corner of this square to this corner of this square. So we're basically working within a square that has 4 squares inside it. And then I'm going to go up to that corner of the next square. And you'll notice as you go along these become scallops. So if you're on a roll and you want to just do that line with one continuous scallop, you're welcome to do that, or you can kind of pause there and then go down. Either way it works just fine. Okay, and I'm going to end on a half scallop right there because that's going to end up becoming a leaf over here on the right side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to curve down the opposite way back to this corner, and then I'm going to create a stem, and then I'm going to come up to that corner so you can see now I've created 2 leaves and a stem. So then I come down, do the stem, and back up. And just do that all the way across, and it goes pretty quickly. My stems are a little wonky. That's all right, I think. Okay, So now what I'm going to do is just travel up. Imagine that's a seam right there. I'll travel up my seam where it's hidden. Then I'll just kind of do a curvy line and a semicircle right there. And then echo that a couple times, and then I'll do another semicircle. This one's going to get kind of big. Okay, so I've got my first flower completed. I don't have a lot of space right here. I went really big with that circle, so I am going to make this one a little farther over and a little smaller. And from here on out, I'm going to kind of try to keep that size a little bit more controlled because that's obviously too big, takes up too much space. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you tomorrow for day 23 of the Doodle School Doodle Challenge. Bye now.